You never be as famous as me. All right, when we say the business of America, we're talking about how America was booming in the 1920s, the American economy. Right there, you see another Coolidge quote. Coolidge, again, is the guy that was on your drill book from today. He says, "The chief business is of the American people is business, and the man who builds a temple, let me start over. The man who builds a factory builds a temple, and the man who works there worships there." All right, what is he comparing Americans and their work to? A temple? So what? Religion or the church, right. He's basically saying that Americans are becoming materialistic and are kind of worshiping their job and their money. So the United States, we had a government at that time that was based on free enterprise. All right, that goes kind of back towards the term we talked about the first week of class, laissez-faire. It means government keeps its hands off the economy. But I got here the Coolidge and the Republicans, they wanted to keep government from interfering with business as little as possible. All right, in the 1920s, we also have the automobile impact America. All right, who do we say mastered the mass production techniques for automobiles? Henry Ford, right. But did Henry Ford invent the car? No, he just made a way to make it better. So you had new architectural styles, you had new roads, traffic signals. Think about it. Now you have a lot of people able to afford cars. You had to figure out some way to make them drive through cities in an orderly manner. So they had basically the first versions of stoplights. All right, then I got underwater tunnels like from New York to New Jersey. All right, as people started to use cars more now, if you lived out in the country, you could travel to the city more often. All right, it was a little bit easier to go on vacation. I've got new dating opportunities. Maybe you'll start to explore the back seats of the car, things like that. And then I've got workers can commute to work. That means you don't always have to live right close to your job anymore. You know, maybe now once cars are around, if you lived in Pitt County back in the 1920s, you could live in Bethel and work in Greenville. Whereas before, that might have been a little bit of a too long commute. All right, and cities start to spread out more. And I've got there the word urban sprawl. That means cities just start to spread out over miles and miles. All right, this is also when the automobile industry starts to change certain parts of America, like Detroit. Detroit, I told you, was nicknamed the Motor City. So Michigan and Ohio are big auto manufacturing centers. All right, also around the 1920s, airplanes came into use more. And at first, airplanes were not really commercial passenger-carrying planes, but they were mail-carrying. They slowly developed into passenger-carrying planes. All right, and America's standard of living as a whole went up. All right, what do you see in that top picture? Washing machine. All right, what do you see in the bottom picture? All right, power lines, right. So I've got here that America had 40% of the world's wealth. Even though we were nowhere near 40% of the world's population, that income goes up from $522 for the average American at the start of the 20s to $705 by later in the decade. Right here, electricity goes out to more and more places. Now, it didn't reach everybody. Even in the 1930s, when Franklin Roosevelt was president, one of the New Deal agencies was the Rural Electrification Administration, still trying to spread out electricity. All right, but if you remember, one of the articles you had to read last week said that because you had things like washing machines and dishwashers and all that now, it didn't necessarily make it so women had less work. And why not? Wouldn't you think something like a dishwasher and a dryer and a washing machine would make the woman have less work to do if she was a housewife?
Oh, yeah. No, didn't you say no? Because it's going to make them clean the clothes more.
Yeah, well, it makes them clean more. Now it just raises the standards of cleanliness. What was acceptable for your home to look like 10 years ago wasn't acceptable anymore. All right? And people had more disposable income, more money they could spend. So companies started to find a way to make those people spend that money on your company. So they started spending on advertising. All right, now it's kind of pixelated, but we can get the gist of this. Now, first off, I want you to think of what Americans and their modern attention spans would think of this. If you were reading the magazine and you saw this ad, how many of y'all would read about 6 paragraphs of text in an ad? Probably not many people. We're looking for advertisements today that are flashy and tell us the point quickly. All right, but this is an ad for what? Listerine mouthwash, right. And how is it implying that you need Listerine? All right, Marshavian's right. He says, well, if somebody's getting up in your face, giving you a kiss, do you really want to have bad breath then? Now look at this one. Colgate shaving stick. All right, again, you see a lot of text, few pictures. So I think, one, it says something to how in modern society our attention spans have gone way down. Maybe we just don't like to read as much as people used to or something. And that we couldn't ever imagine images like that in modern advertisements. All right, you see this right here. It says indoor athletic footwear. All right, from the Daily Dozens of the World Championships. All right, if you look at that shoe, now notice that doesn't really look like an athletic shoe. Well, it's almost like what most of us would call a work boot. A what? Yeah, it does look a little bit like Converse's, but you know it's nowhere near what we would wear today. And you look at this, typewriters from kindergarten through college. No, well, I did have a typewriter when I was young, but just in elementary school. All right, look at these ads for cars. Again, now you're starting in the 1920s to have a little bit more variety in automobile choices. Remember, for a long time, it was Henry Ford made the Model T. He made the Model T in black. He made it in basically one style. All right, now you had guys like Sloan with General Motors starting to manufacture more colors and styles of automobiles. Oops. All right, with this, you see still in the McCall Quarterly ad how women are dressed somewhat conservatively. All right, you think all advertising was true? No. All right, what did we just talk about with the progressive era that mentioned people having to be truthful in what they put on labels? Think about Teddy Roosevelt. Remember, Teddy Roosevelt encouraged Congress to pass the Meat Inspection Act, but also the Pure Food and Drug Act. So you couldn't just put a bunch of creek water in a medicine bottle and say, oh, this is Scruggs' snake oil, and it'll cure headaches and upset stomachs and anything else. All right, look at that ad. You know, speaking of, is advertising true? Tells fat men can wash away years of fat with a bar of soap. All right, I don't think many of us today would believe that. You see, you can get a special 15-day trial offer. I don't know if they're trying to claim that you could actually see some progress in 15 days, but look here. It says, reduces double chin, ungainly ankles, unbecoming wrists. All right, look at that cigarette ad in the top left. Now, nowadays, do you see cigarette advertising? No. You know, when I was younger, that you could see things like Joe Camel were popular in the Marlboro Man, but now that's kind of been done away with. But still, even if you saw cigarette ads, like when I was in elementary school, you certainly wouldn't see a doctor recommending them.
Oh, they got cigarette ads like people be messed up.
Yeah. Right, yeah, now it's kind of negative things, right? So you see in the top left there, you got a dentist saying, I would recommend you smoke this kind of cigarette. And in the top right, look at the thing to make babies stop sucking their thumb. It's like you put a locking device on the baby's thumb. All right. On the bottom side, it says that Baby Ruth candy bar is going to give you energy. All right. In modern ads, all right, we'll discuss more of this in a second once I stop the video. But are all modern ads true? No. All right. Occasionally, they might have a bit of truth to them, but we're going to watch this video. It's linked at the bottom there, and if you're watching this on the video at home, you can type in that link about whether or not the 5-hour energy crash prevention promises are true. But as productivity increases and people can make more goods, businesses start to expand. And people start to develop first department stores. So you can see here, the WOOL, this was a Woolworths department store. But while a lot of Americans look like they're doing all right, income's going up, more people can afford cars, advertising agencies are making a killing trying to get people to buy things they don't need, there's some dark clouds coming up. I got there's a big income gap between workers and managers. The owners are getting richer while the workers get poor. Two particular industries that struggled were iron and railroads. I got there that farmers were also suffering. Remember, this is just after the 19-teens. During the 19-teens, farmers could plow up as much land as they wanted to and grow as much grain as they wanted to, grow as many crops as they wanted to, and somebody's going to buy it. Because who needed our crops in the 19-teens? So what? Other countries, right. Countries in Europe during World War I. All right, also, a lot of Americans were buying things on credit. All right, they would purchase things on installment plans. Means that you don't have to buy the whole thing right now. You put some money down, and then you pay a monthly fee. And it was nicknamed $1 down, $1 forever. So a lot of people are focused on having fun right now rather than trying to save up for the future. Because a lot of people thought, hey, they made it through World War I, which is the worst thing they could ever imagine. So let's have some fun and celebrate.
But you said it was good during the war.
The economy was good during the war. Right. After the war, things started to change.
So they have no way to.
All right, but I've got here that at the time you had Calvin Coolidge, who was an American president, was practicing the economy and a frugal way of life. That means he's basically encouraging Americans to save your money. All right. At the same time, the American public is living opposite. And remember, Calvin Coolidge from that drill book quote today said that one of the greatest things was to live within your means. That means don't spend too much or money that you can't afford.